Finally home on Pine Ridge Reservation. One family's saga. Before we start, I should tell you that there is a severe housing shortage on Pine Ridge Reservation. They could use at least 4,000 houses immediately. Most of the housing that is there would be considered substandard. There are no building codes on the reservation. This is the story of the 6 years I've known my friends. They live on Pine Ridge Reservation, and this is their struggle to find a real home of their own. They were on the waiting list for a house from tribal housing for 10 years. I can only tell you about the 7 homes they have lived in during the 6 years that I've seen for myself. My friends have never been technically homeless, but they've never had a home that was truly their own. They have lived with family because that is Lakota tradition. Relatives take you in because that is the Lakota way. Generosity and hospitality are Lakota values. We'll be seeing this map several times throughout the program. The bold black line shows the approximate boundaries of the Pine Ridge Reservation. This story begins in Allen, South Dakota, in the home of my friend's mother-in-law. You will notice that the faces have been obscured. That is because I want you to look at the home, not the people. My friend, her new husband, and her 3 teenage daughters from a prior marriage moved in with his mother and 6 other relatives who also needed homes shortly after they married. They needed a place to stay and could not find a home available. That brought the total number of people living in the small house to 12. Now look at the surroundings. Notice the Christmas punch bowl, actually it was the picnic jug, the linoleum in the kitchen floor, the tables and chairs, the towel holding the front door closed against the constant South Dakota wind. These are things we take for granted. Yet when used by so many individuals over a long period of time, they wear out much faster than yours or mine. After approximately a year, my friend needed a change of the faces and personalities they dealt with on a daily basis. Also, others needed to move into her mother-in-law's home, which would have been even more overcrowded. So the family moved to a trailer where my friend's mother lived, with several of her grandchildren, in Kyle, South Dakota, about 20 miles away. The trailers that you're going to see in the photos are not the trailer they lived in, but they are very similar. One thing I do recall about the trailer that they lived in is that one side of the exterior steps were rotted away. That was bad enough, but when you reached the top step, there was also a hole in the trailer floor at the threshold. It went through to the ground, which is exactly what you would have done if you took a misstep as you entered the door. There were problems with this living arrangement. There were members of the extended family that would drink to excess. There were other children, and it was very, very overcrowded. And so, another move. The next move was to Rapid City, South Dakota. It's a move that many on the reservation attempt, and most of the time it does not work for reasons that we will discuss. My friends, who refused to take welfare assistance, moved to Rapid City to find jobs. they rented an apartment in a converted motel. Their apartment was larger than most because it consisted of 2 rooms that had been adjoining rooms. They had a kitchen, 1 closet, and a second room that had been separated into a living area and bedroom. It was small by apartment standards, but definitely larger than the 1 room they would share in Pine Ridge. There were 5 people living in that apartment. The adults slept in the bedroom on a mattress on the floor. The girls slept in the living area on a sleeper cot, the couch, and the floor. Gratefully, heat and cable TV were included in the rent. They did find work. My friend worked as a housekeeper at a hotel. Her husband did day work as a roofer. But the work was not consistent, and it was difficult to get to work without a car. The income was not enough. Eventually, they did move back to the reservation. I hope, if you've been watching the photos of the apartment, you've noticed the blankets used for curtains, the sheet used for a bedroom door, and the bare bulbs that served as ceiling light fixtures. It was good for them to be on their own, but it was not a place most of us would want to live. Yet they'd have stayed if the work was steadier. Unfortunately, as it is for many, it was a failed experiment. Often those who move off of the reservation discover they cannot find jobs that pay well enough, cannot afford the expenses, cannot locate affordable housing, or cannot get along without a car. Also, many find they miss their family and their culture. Since Rapid City is at least 90 miles from the northern part of the reservation, it is difficult to visit. Even if you own a working vehicle, gas is an expensive luxury. There is also, sadly, a lot of racial prejudice that still exists in the areas off the reservation. The family moved back to Allen. They moved in with the mother-in-law again, in the house you saw at the beginning of the video for a short time. Then they rented the little blue house on the hill from a cousin. As you see it, you may agree with me that the cousin should not have charged rent. I have used these photos on a prior video, so some of you may have seen some of them before. It is a part of the saga. The roof was in bad shape. The back door was falling off, so it was removed and the opening boarded up. There was no running water, cold or hot, and no usable indoor bathroom. There was no water storage tank from the tribe for a year, and they carried water from relatives' home in milk jugs during that time. There were insufficient electrical outlets, and they had to use extension cords. There was no heat, except for the 2 electric heaters we sent them. You can imagine what that would do to the electric bill. The bill got so high that the electric was cut off. They had to move from what they thought would be their home, because living without electricity, and thus without heat, is just not possible in South Dakota. They were happy when they were in this home in spite of the conditions they endured, because they did not have to live with others. But not even being able to take a shower in your own home becomes a burden. In fact, my friend's middle teenage daughter once went to a friend's house to take a shower. Since the shower was not working, she decided that she would still take a bath. Unfortunately, she had a seizure and hit her head on the tub, which she had previously filled with water. She drowned while she was unconscious. My friend lost her daughter because the girl had gone to someone else's home to take a bath. They endured a year in that home, but had to move again. So they moved back in with my friend's mother in Kyle. Actually, her mother had moved into a new home built by a charity, so they were able to have the trailer to themselves. In addition to my friend, her husband, and her 2 remaining teenage daughters, her eldest daughter moved in with her partner and 2 young sons. So there were 8 people living in that trailer. However, there were family problems again. Additionally, the mother, who owned the trailer, decided that she wanted to allow different family members to live in the trailer. So she asked my friend and her family to leave. That is the problem with living as a guest in someone else's home, whether they are living in it or not. You never know when you're going to be asked to move out. There were a lot of problems with the trailer itself. It contained black mold. The water was found to have lead. Not a good place to live. Technically, the trailer had been condemned. Now, my friends, just a few months of living in that trailer, were faced with the need to move yet again, with no place to move to. So they moved back in with the mother-in-law. Yes, that same little house you first saw. They were there for a number of months again. Then, one day, I received a phone message from my friend that made me cry. It was a good cry because it was the happiest message I have ever received from my friend. Listen.
You have one old message. Tuesday, 1:22 p.m.
Betty, guess what? We got a house. Oh my God.
Of course, I called my friend back right away. She told me about the house that they would now be renting through tribal housing, and I've never heard her as happy as she was that day. It was a joy for us, too, to know that they finally had their own home, and the only people who would live there would be the ones they chose. The house is a half a duplex. It has 3 bedrooms. It is definitely a fixer-upper, as you will see, but it is theirs. It's in Allen, not far from the mother-in-law, which is a good thing. My friends now have indoor plumbing, hot and cold water, toilet and shower. There are small air conditioning units that come with the home. They use them infrequently, only when there are guests like me, because of the amount of electricity. But in the hot South Dakota summers, I think it will be a help. There are still blankets and sheets for curtains and windows right now. There is some crime in the housing area. There is the room from hell that needs to be redone. But did you see the attempts to use inexpensive items to improve the decor? Much of it is yard sale chic. It may seem like there were a lot of TVs, but you should know that those TVs do not get TV shows. Cable and satellite are not affordable for my friends. TV reception on the reservation is about as good as their cell phone reception. That is, not good at all. The TVs are used to watch movies, VHS and DVDs, again purchased inexpensively. I went out to visit them in this house because they were having the house blessed. I will admit that I hoped and expected that it would be a Lakota ritual. It was not. It was done by the local Episcopal priest, who did tailor the rite to include Lakota culture. This house is now blessed, and I am hoping that this will be the beginning of a wonderful period in their lives, now that they have a home of their own.